And so I invited some young men to lunch. I said, you know what? I'll invite you to lunch once a week. I'll pay for lunch. Exchange for lunch, teach me how to be a better teacher. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'll fix it. And when I realized from these young men that at this school, school is not cool. Like, you're not cool being smart. So they acted in ways that they felt they needed to act to feel cool. And what I learned from them in that moments was that they were wearing a mask too. Their mask of cool said, you can't be too smart because these people at this school don't like smart people. The mask they were wearing was so deeply connected to their face that sometimes they didn't even know it themselves. And so what we began to do is give them tools to break past it.
Okay, Doug Suley here with Truth Testosterone Channel. I'm here with Joe Sigurdson and with Ashanti Branch, the founder of Ever Forward Club, everforwardclub.org. We're going to talk a little bit about the background of how Ever Forward came into being and go a little deeper into some of the work regarding the masks and stuff. So, Ashanti, why don't you take it away and tell us a little bit about the background of how you developed Ever Forward Club and how it came into being.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been 21 years this month. 21 years. We started the Ever Forward Club. The 24th of May of 2004. I asked some young men to come to my class after school. I saw something brilliant in them. I said, "Look, I want you to be a part of creating this club that I've dreamed about, of supporting you to be your best self." It was about them. It wasn't about me. I was a new teacher. I had left the engineering career. Teaching called me, and as I'm looking back 21 years, you imagine there's lots of stories in that 21 years, but what I'm really grateful for that I took a photo that day that they showed up to that room, that I have the letters still, that I have the memories of the journey of students who've come and left, but it was really about making sure that those young men were seen and they were heard and they were understood. And it was what I didn't have. It was what I didn't have growing up. It was what I dreamed of. I didn't know what I was dreaming for, but I know I would have loved to have a space where I could be honest and open about what was really going on in my life. And
And
I
I
knew
think
that,
you talked about how this opened up for you because these kids they weren't showing up, right? I mean, they weren't accessing what their talents were, and that was frustrating you, and you were just looking for a way to bring that out of them somehow so they
yeah,
could
I mean, I
reach
was a
their
math
own
teacher.
potential.
Yeah, I was
Right.
a math teacher. And so math is a gatekeeper. So here's what I know. I knew as an adult. Math, if they don't finish algebra, they don't graduate high school. Now, if you're 13 or 14, your immaturity will be just like, I just want to have fun. I'm just coming back from middle school. I'm now in high school. I'm going to just do what I just did in middle school. Now, in California, the rule is you can fail every class in middle school. When you get to high school, the rules change 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if no one's helped you understand the rules have just changed 100%, and you think that just showing up, they're gonna keep moving you along in grades, you're gonna be sadly mistaken. And so what I had to do for young people was say, dude, you're too smart to be acting like you're dumb, and like you can do this work if you just give it half of an effort. And so me trying to like do that in class was always the times hit with some battles. So I started, well, look, how about I support you in a different way. And so we began the Ever Forward Club. It was really lunchtime meetings to really have some conversation. And I think what they began to see was that, wait a minute, how is the star football player over here who has this amazing girlfriend over here, how is he going through real stuff at home? But
Yeah.
because they thought that what they saw on the outside was what was actually what's happening behind what was happening on the outside, they all got fooled. They all was fooling, trying to fool each other, and they were fooled by those on the outside. So we weren't talking about a mask back 21 years ago, but as the metaphor was real, it was like, what's going on with you? What's happening? How are you doing? And I think that's how the Ever Forward Club started. So we're in this 21-year celebration. This Saturday is the 21st year anniversary. We'll be having a little celebration party, and then we'll be continuing on to see what happens as we move into 22 years. So that's how it all started.
So I'm curious, how do you judge and measure your success? Do you have metrics or how is it that you've been able to prove your program out?
Yeah, in the early days we didn't. I mean, we definitely have since then. In the early days, when the first person asked me about, "Do you have any data?" I'm like, "Data? What kind of data? I'm just buying lunch every week. I know I got data. I can say about my bank account data. The
Right.
bank account is going in the reverse order than it was when I was an engineer.
But
I
did
can
it
tell you
move
that."
into things like attendance, grades, deportment, those kind of things?
Yeah, yeah, but what I'm naming is that the data that I was in the early days when people asked me about data, I didn't start this to be on a data hunt. You see,
Right.
what happens with nonprofits, and sadly, what happens with a lot of them, the person who has the idea of trying to create something in the world then gets into this system where you then have to then everything I'm doing, I'm trying to measure, and I don't do anything that I can't really measure, and it means that I may even do stuff that is not working anymore because I'm trying to like do the thing that they're expecting me to measure. So what we now are able to measure with words and from young people all over the world is like when young people come to this work and they become more alive and more open to the fact that I want something out of life, they have better attendance. They have less academic challenges. They have less behavioral challenges. It doesn't mean those challenges don't show up. It means they now have more tools to navigate them. So what we can measure in terms of data right now is that our students, when we're in a program that has a school that works with us regularly, all students will graduate high school. All the students who have been in our program multi years all graduate high school. Our model has shifted since the pandemic. We don't have the 4 year long program with the same group of young men. We go into schools and we do more the short term engagements because sadly schools are complex, as you may know, but also they are very complex when they're asked to be committed. Now, sadly, principals at schools change every 2, 3 years. So you could have a great relationship with a principal now. A new principal comes and says, "You know what? We're going to do something different." And you're like, "Wait a minute. You're going to sacrifice my relationship with these young men because you want to do something different?" And it's unfortunately not fair, but they oftentimes don't take it as serious as we take it. And I've had principals who was like, "Yeah, we're not going to bring the program back this year." And you're like, "Well, at least let me go and say bye to the young men because I'm not leaving them. You're making this choice, right?" But then, so you deal with the battles of what we have to deal with in the nonprofit industrial complex. But in measuring young people, when they finally get open to their minds that I'm not alone, and I want more out of life, everything improves. Their health, their emotional health, social health, physical health, financial health, their all the ways of their health improve and their mental health improves when they can find a place that they can trust and take off
Right.
that mask and take the load off on a regular basis. So yeah, those are the things that we're measuring now. We have a big goal. We have a big goal to reach people all over the world. So we're constantly counting those numbers, but we have a bigger goal that we can help young people see their power and their ability to thrive.
Okay, so we want to talk about the masks, and there's a lot of crossover between what you're doing, I think, and in Boys to Men on the initiation weekends, we do this unmasking the truth thing. We can touch on that. But before we go into that, I wanted to ask you a personal question.
Yeah.
So in your TEDx, I was listening to it, and the part that really grabbed me was when so there was a man that had pushed your mother down or knocked her down. It was either your stepfather or maybe it was her boyfriend or something.
Yeah.
And then you had gotten out of the house and you drove off and got a gun. And then you came back and you were sitting in the front of the house with the gun in the car. And you said that tears started to come down your face. And then you said that you were crying and you felt sad, afraid, and helpless.
Mm.
And when I listened to that, I felt what you were saying. And then the first thought that went through my mind was it's radical and subversive because you're talking about human emotions. And I'm guessing you're about 18, maybe 19 at this time.
Yeah. 17.
Okay,
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
So where did that come from? That emotional clarity? Like, who showed that to you that you were able to access
Mm.
that emotional intelligence at that point in time in your life? Was it your mother, or how did that gift come to you?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that story is one that it wakes me up every time. I would tell you that if you believe in a higher power, it would make sense. If you don't believe in a higher power, when you hear me say this, um, you're gonna be like, that's impossible. So here's what I know. I know that I was forced to go to church growing up. I most times didn't want to go, but I didn't have a choice in my house. My house, my mom made the rules, and you follow the rules. Um, I know that sitting in that car, inside of me was the protector, the man of the house, even though my mom had got married to this man, right? My job was to protect my mom. So what I was doing, because I tried with my own physical strength to protect her, I didn't have strength. He was just stronger than me. So I thought the only other way to protect her and keep her safe was that I had to do something drastic. So I was at the end of my rope. So when I'm sitting in the car, now my friend who I went and got it from, he knows that I'm a nerd. I'm on my way to college. I'm a senior in high school. I'm about to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, a top engineering school in the country. There's no, what are you talking about? Now, the fact that I know where to go get a gun is another question we can ask. We can talk about that another time. The fact that I know where to go get one, that's a complex situation as well. But he knew that if he didn't give it to me, I would get it from somebody else because I was enraged. And I was like, I don't got time to talk right now. Either you're going to help me or I'm going somewhere else. And so in the car, while I'm in my mind, a very sensitive, kind young man on my way to college, love math, I'm about to be an engineer, but I'm trying to do this work that I'm supposed to do to protect my mom. All I know is that some intervention, some higher being than me came in and I actually saw the future. I saw myself being marched down the steps by police. I saw the front page of the Oakland Tribune. It said, college bound senior throws his life away. I saw myself ruining my future. Now, if I didn't have a space in between the rage and if there was a weapon in my house, it would have been probably a different story. There was no weapons in my house. I had to drive around the corner, get it, come back, and I'm like getting ready to like do this stupid thing
But
because I have no.
you went into a heart space. So that's my question. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that just you felt came from spirit at that point in time,
I
that you were
I
able to recognize your emotional state at that 17-year-old, access the fact I'm sad, I'm afraid, I feel helpless. I mean,
yeah.
that's big
Those are the
time.
words that I have as an adult. In the car, I
Yeah,
was like, I'm about to throw it all away. Like
gotcha.
in the car crying, I'm like, I'm about to throw my whole life away. And I really, in that moment, when I saw that I was about to throw, because I had seen other young people in my community throw their lives away.
Mhm.
And you always wonder, why would somebody do something like that? Why would a senior in high school go off and start driving down the street 120 miles an hour and kill himself run into a tree? Why
Yeah,
would you do that? Well, you're probably not intending to throw your life away. You're probably just being untrained in your mind and your emotions, so you're just acting ruthless. So yeah, it was. I think my heart. I believe it was a higher power. That's what I believe now, right? But in the
yeah.
moment, I'm just like, and I just was bawling, and I was like, remember, just like, just wetness on my face and my shirt, and I drove it back to my friend's house, and he was more like, what do I got to do with this? Like I said, I didn't do nothing. Because he was
Uh,
like, "What I gotta do? What did you do? What just
Yeah.
happened? What's going on?" Right? I said, "I didn't do nothing. I didn't even get out of the car."
Yeah.
And I
all
think that
right.
that moment, without a doubt, changed my life. And what I saw was, there's this image. I don't know if I was trying to show it because I think you can see it. This is one of the masks, right? So, like, if you look at the outside, it says happy, smart, outgoing, caring. That's what this young man lets the world see. And you can't see it because it's written. This is a word that's bleeding from the back, but this word that's written there 18 times is the word anger. And I think that when I saw this mask, it resonated big time with that story.
Yeah.
Behind the mask was all this anger that I was never able to deal with, but I had to be on the outside showing all that I'm smart, caring, outgoing, and funny. And all of a sudden, what happens when all of a sudden when the right conditions happen, all that anger can come rushing back, and that's why this work is so important, right? That's why we talk about this idea of this emotional mask.
All
Okay.
right. So before we dive into the masks, um, so I'm going to ask for a favor. If you can like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell button for updates, and share it with your friends. Thank you. All right, so we're going to dive into the masks, the Million Mask Movement. Give us a little bit of background on that, Ashanti.
So in 2013, I was a dean at my alma mater, actually, Fremont High School. The school is trying to it went from these small little schools at the same building to kind of coming back to one big school. I'm the leader of the Student Support Center, which is a new space that they're trying to create for wellness. And there's some young men who are getting kicked out of advisory class. Now, advisory, for anyone who doesn't know advisory is the easiest class that ever has existed. Like not PE, maybe people think is easy. I'm talking about advisory is like
Like
you just sit
homeroom
there.
or something.
It's almost like just pretend to listen to what the adult has to say. Just pretend.
Right.
Just pretend. Like you're gonna get out of there with an A. So these young men were getting kicked out of advisory. And I'm like, dude, you can't afford to miss this easy A. Why are you getting kicked out of advisory? It ain't nothing to do there, but just pay attention and listen. Anyway, all that to say, I took over all those young men into my own advisory because I'm like, you ain't gonna be getting kicked in the hallway. You want to get kicked in the hallway because it's less things, you can be less focused there. And so while I was with them, I realized, oh my goodness, these young men are they're going through it. Now, I wasn't at the point as a dean, I didn't have the Ever Forward Club as a plan there, but I'm like, it's a need here. Like, there's a need here. And so that's how it all started. So we got invited to be a part of this documentary called The Mask You Live In. And that documentary, we created this activity about masks. And what I knew, because I'd been with these young men in weekly sessions, they didn't open up.
Yeah.
They'd rather have arguments. They'd rather talk smack. They'd rather goof off and make fun of each other's shoes. Like anything but talking about some feelings. And so I'm like, oh man. So when they wanted to come film, I'm like, you should go to the other school. They have a much better circle over there. And they're like, well, where are you? I said, well, I'm at this school, but there ain't no emotional intelligence happening in this space. You know what I'm saying? Like we're emotionally unintelligent in this space all the time. And so I was
And
like, but
my
we want to see
my
the
sense
resistance.
is that what you were seeing is these guys that had tons of potential, but their training, their minds are always telling them, I don't have any potential. There's no reason for me to put out any effort because I'm not really worth my own effort, right? Am I onto that?
I think yeah, that too. I think there were so many layers that there's all of them are right answers. There's probably like a
That's,
hundred right answers.
I get,
What I saw as a person who went to that high school was that they weren't on the track that I was on. Because when I was at that school, I was on my way to college. Like I was not hanging around in the hallways.
Right,
So the fact that I had to see them from a new perspective, not from who I was, but from who they were and what they were looking for. They wanted to be seen.
yeah.
They wanted to be heard. They wanted to be understood. They wanted to be cared about. They just didn't know how to ask for it. And there's a quote in education that says, the students who need the most love will ask for it in the most unloving of ways.
Yep. Amen. Dude, so just getting back to that group that I was telling you, we talked about earlier, that the circle I run, emotional intelligence does not exist here, right? So I'm doing the mask exercise, right? Like, like what's on the out, I gave him a sheet of paper. It's outside and on the backside, inside. Okay. On the outside, what is okay for you to share about yourself? Tell us about what you are on the outside? Are you kind? Are you funny? Are you a prankster? Whatever you want the world to see, that part of you that you want the world to see, and they write it down. And then I have them flip it out. Okay, what's on the inside? The part you don't want them to see. You know, the part of you that might be scared, part of you that's angry, part of you that is vicious. What the part that you don't want anyone to see. And they write that down. I said, and then I had them ball it up, ball it up. Nobody's going to read this. Okay, throw it in the middle. And then I had them all. The exercise. You created it. And
Yeah.
so this kid picked up this one, and one of the boys on the outside, what he wanted the world to see, he had his gang signs on the outside, right? Well, this kid was in a rival gang, and when he saw that, he started taking his pencil and writing through it. Now, That kid knew the kid who wrote his gang signs down knew what was going on, charged across the room, sucker punched this guy in the face. I
Oh,
jump on both of them. I'm pulling them apart.
oh my God. Oh
But
man.
that lack of emotional intelligence, is, they're freaking landmines.
It's a
Like,
landmine.
like the landmine metaphor that you said, they just looking for that. Anything sets them off.
Oh
Anything.
man.
Because
Oh
they're
man.
carrying all this unresolved anger and
That's right.
grief and
That's right.
sadness and frustration and just any, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
And imagine that. Of all the ones that he could have picked up, he picked
Yeah.
up that one. And of all of the actions he could have taken, he could have just threw it back on the floor. He could have
Yep.
been like, I'm not reading this. But instead, he decided to take a physical action.
Right.
And then on top of that, the person who saw the action was like, I bet that's mine. And
Yep.
whether it was or wasn't, he made up the story that it was, but either he knew because he saw it or he had
Yeah.
a feeling. And then you imagine how many things are all popping off at the same time. And you're like, boom, boom, boom. And what we see over and over with the mask is that young men and adults too, adult men too. Look, our jails, sadly, are
Yeah.
full of men.
Yeah.
94%. We have a lot of young men right now walking around like landmines. And you know what most schools are doing? They're not doing what they're doing in San Diego. They're not doing what Boys to Men. They're not bringing out, they're like, oh, we'll figure it out ourselves. And then they realize they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they blame the young men for not being smart enough or ability to de-escalate when they provide them no tools to de-escalate.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why the schools keep being unsafe because we have schools who are unwilling.
Yeah, because they acquiesce all of their power to the young men, and now these rudderless young men are running the show, and the adults are going, I don't know what to do.
Don't
So
look at me. Don't look at
no
me.
boundaries,
Don't look
Well,
at me.
that
consequences.
a lot of that goes back to what Arno was talking about
Yeah.
was when you have uninitiated elders,
Yep.
they have no, because you use the word landmine. I mean, you don't control a landmine. So if there isn't someone there to steward that energy and
That's right.
recognize it for what it is, and at the same time honor it, like I don't know what happened in that situation with you, Joe, but I mean, hopefully there was some sort of a clearing or maybe raising the level of awareness to like, do you see how easy this is?
Mm,
Especially for men, because anger is just the cheapest emotion on the shelf.
mm,
And for me, my experience is it's always almost 99.9% of the time, that's a mask for grief somewhere,
mm.
Of course.
and
Yeah.
and helping the kid to understand that what's really going on here, what's going on underneath this. It's really easy to ball my fist up, but
Yeah.
it's really, really hard to get to that place where I can allow myself to feel and be in a safe enough place where it's like, okay, maybe we need to just fucking cry it out right now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
And,
and
it's
that's where
not
sacred
safe.
space comes in.
Yeah, that you need that sacred space because it's not okay to cry it out. And he was new. It was his first week in the group, but they knew each other from the streets, and he needed to cry. He wanted to cry, and he
Yeah.
would not cry. He would.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kept asking him, "You okay, man? You okay?"
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm fine. As you can just see, what's right behind those eyes,
That's
you
right.
can see right
Yeah.
through their souls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
And the
lot of
consequences,
times the eye will twitch a little bit or the lip will tremble
Oh
or
yeah.
something while he's telling you, I'm pissed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you're looking into his soul and it's just
mm,
like, no, dude, I can
Yeah.
see some pain in there. I can see some traumas, there's something going on here, and, creating a space, how do you say, okay, it's safe enough here for you to do that? In
yeah.
this group you have now, I don't know, modeling it is one thing, right? You and Melvin, you said was the guy's name?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Melvin's one of the co-facilitators with me. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
brilliant.
And so this is a good segue, like in Boys to Men, how does that play out? Because there's a period where it's either the older men or the guys that have come back as journeymen after they've done initiation, they model it for the initiates, for the new guys that are going through. And of course, these guys have had their experiences in the group. So if they have a mature group, they probably have already gone a little deeper
Yeah.
than all the surface crap that they deal with every day.
Yeah.
But it's basically just one of those people stepping out and not telling a story, you know, like my mom and dad got divorced, but taking it to the next level. My mom and dad got divorced, and here's where it sent me. You know, I was really afraid. Suddenly I had to be the man of the house. My sister was struggling and I had to help her all the time. And, you know, and then really getting into the emotional content
Yeah.
of the divorce and not, instead of just telling the weather report is what I call it, you know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
traffic and weather on the ones, you
Yeah.
know, because that's another thing. Because again, it's a male thing, especially, you know, like Larkin calls it the comfy space, you know, and getting to hear is it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So, Ashante, you and I met in Ojai,
Yeah.
what, 10 years ago, probably?
Man, I mean, even before that, I think it was no, that
12?
was 12 and 26. That was in 2015. I think maybe 2015, maybe 2014,
Yeah,
2013.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
just in Ojai over the weekend and I was thinking about you and I knew we were going to do this Monday. So I just want you to know you've been on my heart all weekend.
Oh man.
Um, um, and I just remember meeting you and going, man, this guy gets it. This is an ally. And
Mm,
anyway, and then the times that we have connected, and I know that you've come and to town and then sat in a circle with us and brought your magic and brought your gifts. And I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing,
thank
and
you.
thank you for the beacon of healing and hope and love and light that you are in the world. And it's just been a real pleasure watching you grow and also sharing this time with you.
Yeah, giving us this
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Really,
Well,
really
thank you for
appreciate it.
that. And
Thank you.
I know you've got a book, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm
Let's
new.
hear
I'm a
about
new
that.
author. I'm a new author.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just share briefly because I think ultimately, for any educators out there, teachers. So I taught for 13 years. I was an administrator for 3. I've been on the outside of working in schools, and so I was. This is called the Diary of a Confused Educator. And it's not a book. It was not a, it's not like a memoir. Some stories. And so some of them will make sense, some of them won't make sense. They're not meant to. It's my diary. It's my journey of education. It's some messiness, it's some complications, it's some confusion. And I just hope that as educators out there, teachers, mentors, coaches, if you're trying to help with change in a community that seems unmovable, I just want to encourage you, keep moving, keep going, and knowing that it's not easy. I've probably quit many nights and then I hire myself back the next morning, right? But sometimes it just feels like you're not making the progress you want to make, and so uh,
And the book is available now, Shanti?
it's available now. Yeah, it officially launched on the 28th, next Wednesday. But the pre-orders will probably begin this weekend. But if they go to our website, everforwardclub.org, they'll find it there, or they'll find us on social media. We just announced it today.
All
So
right. I'll put a link in the show notes so
right
Yeah.
everybody can
on.
get to it.
Thank
So,
you.
And while you're there buying a book, get yourself some of these, the adventure cards. These are gold. If you're working with kids, this kind of is just opens the floodgates by asking questions like, what's the worst phone call you ever had to make? Like you want to talk about a subject matter and a way to break the ice with youngsters. So Ashante, thank you for your genius.
Thank you.
Thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for your gift to the planet. Every one of our facilitators, we've got 10 facilitators. They all got one of these. And so when things get rough, well, let's see what the cards have to
See what
say.
the cars have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for supporting our work. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you. Yeah, man.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you
worries.
both. Thanks for having me.
thank
Yeah.
you
Always a
again.
pleasure.